Hi and welcome back to the channel. I have just got my first COVID jab, and apart from some tiredness, there have been no side effects at all. What I also did was I went to the movies. I went to a flesh and blood cinema with incredible state-of-the-art sound to see Godzilla vs Kong. Now I've got to get something right from the start settled here. It's not Godzilla vs Kong. Verse is something different. Verse is, as the poets have mournfully sung, death takes the innocent young. The rolling in money, the screamingly funny, and those who are very well hung. That's verse. Versus is something different. Versus is Joe Louis versus Billy Conn, and Kramer versus Kramer, and Roe versus Wade, and Scott Pilgrim versus nobody wants to see Michael Cera in a movie. Those are verses. They're antagonistic things. It's not verse, it is verses. Now, having settled that, this is a great movie. I enjoy it at the level you're supposed to enjoy it. It is not a Kurosawa movie. It is not an Ozu movie. It is not a Fellini movie. It is an action-adventure film meant to be seen in a cinema. Now, I realize that in some places around the world, you're not going to be able to do that. And rightly so, there are restrictions at the moment, but we're a bit lucky here. So we hit the gold class, we got into the cinema and saw the movie. The sound systems in this cinema, we went to gold class cinema, are state-of-the-art, because when we went to see another movie later on, and I'll be talking about that movie next week, we could feel the vibrations from the fights in Godzilla vs Kong through the walls while we're waiting outside the cinema. We actually touched the walls a bit like one of the characters does on a ship in the movie, and we could feel the vibrations through the walls. It was quite unusual there, and there's a lot of subwoofers involved in the cinema we went to. So the human stuff doesn't really matter in this kind of movie. People are there to watch titans bash each other up, but the human stuff you've got to kind of talk about a little bit. Godzilla attacks a scientific base in Florida for the first time in 3 years. It's the first attack we've had from Godzilla in 3 years. And in that base is a podcaster who has infiltrated it, a guy called Bernie, who does a secret anonymous podcast about Titans and about the human response to Titans. So he's there. It also happens to be the town where Madison, played by Millie Bobby Brown, lives, along with her friend Josh, played by Julian Dennison, who was in Hunt for the Wilder People and Deadpool 2. And they get involved in the kaiju happenings after that initial attack, which is quite graphic and brutal. It's a nice piece of applied CG and sets up the other set-piece monster fights really well. Meanwhile, Kong is in a special enclosure on Skull Island, which is designed to hide him from Godzilla. If Godzilla senses that Kong is there, Godzilla will attack, because they're both kind of apex predators and there can only be one. That kind of Highlander shit, but in a Titan context. Kong isn't happy. Kong is going to break out at some stage. So a group of scientists, including Rebecca Hall's character Eileen, and a guy called Nathan, played by Alexander Skarsgård, who subverts the heroic masculine kind of character role really nicely. His character is not heroic. He's scared shitless of Kong. Now, Eileen also has a adopted daughter called Gia, who is deaf and who has a special rapport with Kong. That's the scene you see with the little girl touching fingertips with Kong. And she's played by a girl called Kaylee Hottle, who herself is deaf. They got the correct casting for that. If you're going to have a deaf character, you get an actor who's deaf. And Kaylee Hottle does a really nice job of bringing her character to life and showing the rapport that she has with this enormous ape. So they decide they're going to move Kong to Antarctica because there's a portal to the place where Kong originally came from before Skull Island. And I'm not going to do any spoilers on where that place is, but it's an extraordinary place where the laws of physics are somewhat different than they are here. And that is laid out really beautifully in a number of scenes. But as they take Kong on a ship across the ocean, Godzilla senses that Kong is there, and you get that enormous sea battle, which is incredibly great. The physics and the simulations that are now able to be done for movie making are first class. The water simulations, the fire simulations, the clouds, the physics of it have a weight that we haven't seen before in movies. This is really well done. The special effects are next level stuff, and particularly combined with the sound design, which gives us those incredible subwoofer things where you can feel Godzilla's heat ray going across your head as the sound rips across your head. Really top stuff. It is lovely to just be in a cinema and see an enormous action film the way it's meant to be seen. They get Kong to Antarctica, and Kong finds his true destiny and also finds the axe, which is made from one of the osteoderms from Godzilla. If you don't know what an osteoderm is, you do have Google. It's a really nice piece of equipment, and it kind of levels the playing field in the battle that Kong has with Godzilla in Hong Kong. So you got Kong in Hong Kong. And that kind of gives Kong a better reach and gives Kong a way of managing Godzilla's death rays. And I like that kind of leveling of the playing field. And there is another antagonist as well. I'm not going to spoil that, but it's nice to see that antagonist turn up. And I'm not going to spoil it for anybody, and I'm glad that all of the social media has avoided that as well. One of the things that really makes this movie a bit next level when it comes to this kind of an action film is the way the two titans fight are very different. Kong is a primate. He's intelligent. He can communicate with human beings in a certain way. He's intelligent, and he's pretty old too. So he's strategic in the way he fights. He knows he's outclassed by Godzilla. You can tell that he knows that. And he kind of works things out strategically. He's not just going in there and just bashing things. He's thinking his way into the fight. Whereas Godzilla is more instinctive. And Godzilla is very much a lizard. It'll attack. It'll do what it needs to do. But it's not as kind of old school intelligent as Kong is. And that kind of works. And when they do ultimately battle, there is a definite winner. So you can settle that for yourself. There is one of the two titans who wins. But the resolution to the film and the resolution to this particular part of the Monsterverse, the fourth movie in the Monsterverse after Kong Skull Island, Godzilla, and Godzilla King of the Monsters, has a satisfying ending. I want to see more in this universe. I think it's a really nice intellectual property, and I want to see more of it as well. And you also get really nice little grace notes in there, like you get a little bit of the classic Godzilla music. You get a few callbacks to the old school Godzilla, which is really nice to have. And it's good to have that recognition. The movie was made by Legendary Pictures in association with Toho. And even though I like Shin Godzilla, that one really rocked my socks when it came out in 2014. I like the way this one's going, and I think it's a respectful way to continue the franchise. I want to see Mothra come back, though spoilers, Mothra died in a previous movie. But I want to see Mothra come back too, because I really like Mothra. And I want to see them throw in a couple of other classic kaiju into the mix in the future. But the universe that this creates is interesting, and it's good to see how technology in the universe evolves in response to the attacks by the Titans. It's kind of like the way World War II supercharged technology for the Allies and the Germans, of course. The attacks by the kaiju has accelerated human technology in some ways. And that's kind of cool, just having that escalation, which makes it feel a bit futuristic, but still within a recognizable world. So if you can see Godzilla vs. Kong in a cinema, if you can't, that's okay too. I believe it's on HBO Max in certain areas, and I don't know where it's going to be here in Australia. But it's a kind of solid recommend from me. There are movies that you just got to accept the fact that they're going to be spectacles. They're not going to necessarily give you deep characters. They're not going to give you any insight into the nature of being a human being. But they are going to give you a lot of messed up real estate. And that's why you go to see this kind of movie for. You go to see rich people's properties be smashed to crap. And you get that in spades with Godzilla vs. Kong. So thank you very much for watching. As always, please consider subscribing and hitting the like button and hitting the notification bell. You can also support the channel at patreon.com/paleocinema. And as always, watch some good movies, watch some bad movies, watch a few kaiju movies and just see the biff going on. And I'll catch you next time.